Good morning, Hank. It's Tuesday. Every now and again, you read a book that truly changes your life. I always say that books can be like mirrors or windows. They can be mirrors that reflect your own experience back to you and help you understand it in a new or deeper way. And they can also be windows into other people's experiences. Or, Hank, they can be windows into your own digestive system, like this book, You've Been Pooping All Wrong, that changed my life. This is not an ad or anything. This book just permanently changed my life and the way I engage with my own pooping. So several months ago, I saw Dr. Pasricha give a talk, and afterwards I came up to her and I was like, that was very impressive and interesting, and I learned a lot. And she was like, thanks, do you want to read my book? And I was like, yeah. I mean, a lot of people ask me to read a lot of books, Hank. And honestly, I came home from the talk and I was like, I'll read 5 pages of this and then, move on with my life. Except I didn't read 5 pages. I read the whole dang book, and I've read it again because, like I said, it changed my life. So first off, it turns out I have been pooping all wrong because, like 95% of Americans, I don't get enough fiber. And I know, Hank, you've been prattling on about fiber supplementation for years and years, but when Dr. Pasricha makes the case, I don't know. It's more compelling to me than when my little brother does. So now I'm getting more fiber, which has dramatically improved my pooping. But also, secondly, Dr. Pasricha isn't just a gastroenterologist. She's actually a neurogastroenterologist. She studies like the relationship between the brain and the gut-brain information axis. And that is of some interest to me, as readers of my book Turtles All the Way Down might know. Like, I have long been troubled by the fact that about half the cells inside my body are not, in fact, me, but are bacteria and other organisms that colonize me, and that those bacteria release, chemicals into my gut that change the way that I think. And in this book, Dr. Pasricha writes about the relationship between the gut and the brain and how the gut does some thinking, and that fascinates me. But then finally, Hank, the third way this book has changed my life is that it has destigmatized pooping. Now, Hank, on some level, you've always had to destigmatize pooping a little bit because you have ulcerative colitis, and so it's just like a part of your life to poop a lot. But for me, it has always been a deep well of shame. Like, over the last 19 and a half years on Vlogbrothers, I have discussed almost everything that you can discuss. But you can go back. I don't talk about pooping much. And in a way, the stigmatization of poop makes sense, right? Like, it's dirty, it often happens in private, etc. But it also leads to delays in care and very real, actual health problems. Like a lot of health-related stigma, it is a social problem that becomes a biomedical problem. So anyway, after I read the book, I asked Dr. Pasricha, hey, will you come on my YouTube channel and talk to me about poop? And she said yes. I had a couple questions for her, but one big one. Is it possible that my OCD is in fact caused on some level by the bacteria that colonize me and is a problem of my gut as much as it's a problem of my head?
Let's talk about gut-brain research real quick if we can, because longtime viewers of my channel know that I'm obsessed with the gut-brain information axis. And this is actually what you study when you're not writing the book You've Been Pooping All Wrong. You are a researcher who studies the conversations that our guts have with our brains.
Yeah, that's right. I have been studying how the gut and the brain communicate with each other for about 20 years, but it's an old field. It's not something that just popped up in the last couple of decades. People have known how impactfully the brain influences the gut for like more than 100 years. It's within the last couple of decades that we're realizing how much the gut influences the brain. And that's really where I think the excitement is.
This is a question that I've been wondering for many, many years. Is my OCD caused by my bacteria, or is it caused by my brain?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. It's like the question that keeps us up at night. And I think the short answer is that it's not as simple as like the gut microbes acting like this puppeteer pulling the strings, but I do think it's safe to say that the gut microbes and other aspects of your GI tract, they're creating this neurochemical weather in which our thoughts are formed, in which our moods are formed, and that can influence our OCD and other disorders. So it's not that they're thinking for you and like our thoughts are formed in our cortex and they're not directly causing behaviors without a lot of other inputs, but they're definitely a big part of the conversation.
It's kind of a relief to me to know that my bacteria are not actually having thoughts for me, because that's the way that I've always constructed it, that it's a little more complex than that. That's sort of helpful to me. But there is an extent to which my microbiome and my gut is informing what happens in my brain.
Yeah. And you're using brain to mean brain in your head. But when I use brain, I think about the brain in our guts. Like I think about the fact that our gut is its own brain. And I say that because it has 500 million neurons that are doing a lot of the same things that brain in our heads do. Like it's producing most of your body's serotonin, most of your body's dopamine. And then those microbes are also producing those same neurotransmitters. And how those neurotransmitters are broken down, whether they go up to your brain or whether they stay in the gut, is all being influenced by those microbes. And so, in a human like you and I, it's not always so one to one about like, okay, this exact microbe is the exact one that's producing the dopamine that's making you feel this way. But it might be interesting to learn that if we look at mice, like there have been these mice studies of OCD, and if you took healthy mice, you wiped out their microbiome with really strong antibiotics, and then you gave them a fecal transplant of people who have OCD and then another group who doesn't, a control group, mice who get the fecal microbes of somebody who has OCD will start to mimic behaviors that we think of as being consistent with OCD. Like they'll start to engage in maybe repetitive grooming behaviors, they'll start to show more signs of anxiety. And in a mouse, that actually does tell us that, yeah, there is this one to one almost causal link between the microbes and this behavior and this kind of actions and thoughts and mood in a human. And that's true of a lot of microbiome studies, is that in mice and these translational studies, the mechanism feels really, really clear cut. Then when we take a step back and look at humans, it doesn't quite pan out that way because it's so complicated, the world in which we live and all the other factors that go in there. But, we do know that in humans, now we're just talking about humans, in humans who have OCD, there is a kind of consistent demonstration that they have increased intestinal permeability, meaning like those tight junctions lining the gut are a little bit more open. We don't know if that's a cause or effect. And we do also know that the people with OCD tend to eat less fiber. I don't know. I don't think that's the cause of per se of it. But when you eat less fiber, you are producing your gut microbiome. Those microbes produce fewer short chain fatty acids, which can be anti-inflammatory, which can influence all of these neurotransmitters production. So there are changes that we know even in a human can link back to those microbes. And how we fix that is not a probiotic, despite what, sometimes you might hear, but it could be through diet, and diet could play a role in so far as how the microbes are processing that. And then that can affect our thoughts and our mood and eventually.
Yeah, so I want to ask you about fiber. My brother has been whining and whining about Metamucil for like 20 years and telling me to take a fiber supplement. And then I read your book and I was like, oh, I should actually take a fiber supplement. And so now I do. So your book has done two important things for me. One, it has changed how I poop, which is great. It's also changed how I talk about poop. My ability to talk about poop and not have such stigma around it and such embarrassment and shame around it, because the book is so wondrously destigmatizing. And I wonder if you can talk. I mean, is fiber kind of the number one thing that most of us should be doing in terms of improving our gut health?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, you've just like warmed my I was gonna say heart, but you've warmed my gut all over. But thank you for taking fiber. Yeah, so fiber is the number one thing. That is like obviously the most boring thing any doctor could ever tell you. And like what people want me to usually tell them about the number one thing I want them to do as a gastroenterologist is take my supplement or take this probiotic. It's just fiber. It's always gonna just be fiber. And the reason fiber is so important is one, we're not getting enough, right? Americans, we meet like 95% of us are not meeting our fiber goals. And fiber does two things. Like it does immediately, it will impact the shape and consistency of your poop. That will change your life overnight. Like it will really make that better. But the long term effects of it are that it supports the lining of your gut. It feeds your microbes that can then start to change into the species that produce more anti inflammatory compounds. And that's linked to just endless long term health benefits. So it's good for you. You're going to feel those benefits pretty quickly, but you're also doing something good, not just for your gut health, but for your brain health. So usually, if I can do one thing for anyone, I assume you're in the 95%, which is not getting enough fiber. And then I tell you, yeah, eat more fiber.
Hank, I will put a link in the doobly-doo below to Dr. Pasricha's incredible book, You've Been Pooping All Wrong. I will see you on Friday. Good luck with your pooping.